Morning and welcome to 2024's garden. It's hard to believe it's already another year, but here in Ecuador, I garden continuously. I don't have a limited growing season like I did in Alaska, and so it is just another day in the garden. Every day of the year, there's something to harvest. There's weeds to pull. There's most days, or most weeks anyway, there's something new that I'm going to be planting or putting in the ground. Now, I thought I would need to come out here this morning and do some watering, but it rained really good last night, so watering is not something I will need to do. Now, here's something I'm really excited about, is all of these little carrot seedlings. I've had success growing carrots here in the past, but I've also had a lot of failures. Carrots really are pretty easy to grow once you get them germinated. But getting them germinated is the problem because it can take up to 3 weeks. The seeds can't be planted very deep. In fact, I usually just sprinkle them on the surface. And then they need to stay moist. If they dry out, they won't germinate. So maintaining the right conditions for germination is the big challenge with carrots. After that, they just grow. I might need to do some thinning. I've got some that are in bunches, but generally I don't worry too much about that. I don't try to grow carrots in neat little, perfectly thinned, spaced rows. I just scatter them. Over here I've got some bok choy coming up. I scattered those seeds the same day I did the carrot seeds, and wow, they popped up in just a few days. I've got all this dill that's just growing up, this volunteer dill coming up in the pathway. I'm just letting it. I have this red lettuce that I'm letting go to seed. Actually, I've got quite a lot of lettuce right now that I'm letting go to seed. Over here, I've got some romaine. And it'll be nice just to have some seed from that. Over here, I've got some bok choy that's going to seed. I'll be able to collect the seed from that. This bok choy it was a transplant that I got I got these plants, small established plants from a friend, and I transplanted them, but almost immediately they started bolting. So I decided to just let them go to seed. And then over here, I've got more lettuce going to seed, partly intentional and partly by accident. At the time this lettuce was ready to be eaten, I was sick and didn't feel like eating salads, and I decided to let it go to seed. But I'm gonna have plenty of seed because I've got 3 little patches of the romaine. But over here I've got another variety of lettuce, just a green leaf lettuce, and I'm happy that this will be going to seed. And yeah, it's so funny. If you've never seen this, it's funny how the lettuce forms a nice head like we're used to harvesting. But if you leave it and don't harvest it, it grows into these big towers, and gradually those leaves will wither back as all the energy is put into the production of these seeds. And so this will flower, and then I'll have a whole lot of lettuce seeds. So since I don't have to water today, the first thing I want to work on is getting these young butternut squash plants that I have in pots planted out here in this field. I've already got other butternut squash plants growing out here. They're in different stages of development, but I'm going to put these new ones out here. And I cooked a butternut squash a few days ago and I've got these seeds. They don't look like the most viable seeds, but they are seeds. I'm just gonna scatter them out here and let them do what they do. So let me get to that. Now, a big difference between gardening in Alaska and gardening here in Ecuador is in Alaska you had a very short growing season, and so you had to plan carefully to maximize your production and your harvest in that short window of the year in which you could actually grow. Here in Ecuador, I'm growing things year round, literally. So for me, the limiting factor is actually my time and the energy I want to put into it. And so I try to do things efficiently. I generally spend 2 hours in the morning on Monday, 2 hours in the morning on Friday, and then beyond that, it's pretty hit or miss the time that I can spend in my garden. And so I do a lot of things somewhat randomly. There's just abundance here. I have abundant seeds, I have abundant plants, I have abundant sun and growing literally nonstop. And so a lot of times I just put something in the ground and hope it grows. And if it doesn't grow, that's okay. Something else will grow. These plants here, actually I had scattered some butternut squash seeds everywhere, not knowing if they were going to grow or not. And many of them did. Many of them came up, and some of them came up in places where they were too close together, or I thought they were going to get trampled on. So I just ran around and quickly potted these up and got them established in these little pots for a few days. And now I'm just going to put them in a place that I think they have a better chance of growing. But I'm not going to devote too much time to it. It's going to be somewhat random. Recently I went through my seed box and pulled out anything that was of questionable viability, or for example I had some broccoli seeds, but I normally buy little broccoli seedlings that I can get very inexpensively. Just random seeds that I had that I didn't really care that much about, and I didn't know if they would produce or not, and I didn't want to continue storing them and letting them get even older and less viable. And I just came out here in this big open space where I have so much land, and I really just scattered these seeds everywhere. So I'm curious to see what's going to grow. I'm sure something will grow from those seeds. I just don't know what will. And at this point, I don't really care. I'll be happy with whatever I get. As I'm planting these, I'm not paying too much attention to where I plant them, but what I am taking into consideration, I don't want them too close to another plant, that a well-established plant that might just grow right over them and shade them out. And I'm also trying not to put it someplace where I think it might get trampled on, or I think we might be walking through here and might miss it. I am just growing one type of squash out here right now, just butternut squash. I've got some other types of squashes I'd like to grow, like pumpkin, acorn squash, some others, but spaghetti squash. But because squash plants will cross-pollinate, I just want to grow one variety at a time so I can save the seeds and in a future time grow more butternut squash. Okay, so I finished that. That took about 10 minutes. If you watched my earlier video, you know that this bed is full of cauliflower plants that I got for free. I also came in here and sprinkled a lot of the dill seed and cilantro seed that we had harvested from some plants that went to seed and created tens of thousands of seeds. So I just scattered them randomly, but the challenge for me now is trying to weed in here. I just want to give it a quick weed, pulling out the biggest or most established weeds. We recently pulled out grass that was here in this space, so I don't want large chunks of grass to regrow. But for the most part, this bed's going to just do what it does with very little attention. So I'm going to take maybe 10 or 15 minutes and go through this long bed and pull out what I perceive as the most threatening weeds that could impede the production of the cauliflower here. Okay, that took about 15 minutes, and as I was doing it, I was trying to avoid compacting the soil, so you'll notice I didn't step in the bed at all. I might have kneeled on the edge of it or supported my weight with my tool here, but I want to try to keep that soil nice and loose. I didn't get all the weeds, but I got the ones that I was concerned about, and I think that'll be good enough. As I look through this bed, I see a lot more dill coming up than cilantro, but they're definitely both coming up. Maybe the cilantro is just taking a little longer. Here you can see a lot of dill. Here's a cilantro plant right there. Another cilantro plant here, but dill really everywhere. There's certainly more weeds I can pull, and I probably will come through here again, give it another 15 minutes and maybe a week. But for the most part, I'm pretty pleased with this bed. We threw it together very quickly, and we put in these bonus plants that we received, and I think we're gonna get a harvest. It's really helped that we've had rain lately so that we haven't had to spend a lot of time bringing water out here. So the goal in the near future, as soon as we can finish removing the rest of this thick grass that's here on this side, we already have all these posts, and we want to put a fence between these two lots so that we can get some animals out here to start clearing this land, eating the plants and tilling the soil, eating the bugs, eating the weed seeds. We're not entirely decided what kind of animals we want to put over here, but that is the plan. And the goal eventually is to be able to alternate these two fields. So while one side is growing with plants for food, the other side can be supporting animals. We know we want to get chickens for the eggs, but beyond that, we're not really sure. But in time, the animals will be able to clear all the greenery off of this side, and then we can harvest on this side and reverse it to where we're putting the plants, planting where the animals had been and moving the animals to where the plants had been. One of our daily chores that has to be done every day of the year, even if we're on vacation, we have to get somebody else that can do it, is to open the windows on the greenhouse, or the curtains on the greenhouse each day, and then close them in the evening. That helps regulate the temperature here for our plants inside, because if we didn't open the curtains and have ventilation, it would get way too hot and kill our plants inside. It also gets fairly cool here at night, and so by closing the curtains, we help maintain some of that warmth during the night and just help moderate the temperature for our plants. So normally we're out here opening the curtains at 8 o'clock. Today it's a very cool morning because it rained this morning. So it's almost 9 and I haven't opened the curtains yet, but I'm going to do that now. Thanks, friends, for hanging out with me in my garden. I hope we can do it again soon.